All right, so you asked me to focus a little bit on schools and churches. So schools differ in a lot of ways, but even among schools, they differ. High school shootings are far more than half of all school shootings. So high schools are statistically much more likely to have an attack than middle and elementary. But high schools, the shooter is a student or a recent student, meaning the shooter at that attack is a student or someone who dropped out, got expelled, or graduated within the last 12 months. It's most likely to start in the cafeteria before school, the cafeteria during lunch, or the front office entrance area of the school, followed second by hallways and classrooms. Middle schools, the shooter, again, is most likely a student. I only know of one exception to that. What I don't understand is I don't have any middle school shootings that started in the cafeteria, even though every middle school I know of has a cafeteria. Those shooters don't start there. They start most often in the hallway and classroom, followed by outside the school. If it's a middle or high school shooting, you have a slightly higher chance of multiple shooters. Slightly. We've only had 5 multiple shooter attacks in our country, but 3 of those 5 were middle and high school students shooting up their own schools. Elementary school is a different animal. The shooter is not a student. Now, we just had one a couple of months ago. It's not an active shooter. It was one elementary student with a gun that shot one teacher. That wasn't an active shooter trying to get a body count. That was one person shooting another person. And in Arkansas, that's an aggravated battery. Okay, but in elementary active shooters, they're not related to the school. They're an outsider. They're not a student. They're not a parent. They're not a staff member. So it's not going to start in your cafeteria where one of your kids in the cafeteria starts shooting. They're going to start either as they shoot their way into your school because they're an outsider, or they're going to shoot your kids on the playground because the elementary school has an additional tactical problem with the playground that the others don't have. That's happened 3 times. And I sometimes have issues when I'm working with superintendents. They want to treat all the schools the same so they don't appear to be playing favorites when we should not treat them the same. If we talk about hardening the buildings, which is another thing people like to talk about because it's not as hard to talk about locks and doors as it is being ruthlessly violent against this attacker. So we're going to get these new locks and these new doors. Well, for a middle or a high school, hardening the building, make it harder to get in the buildings, probably only going to have the negative effect of delaying cops and ambulances because your shooter is already in the school. He's one of your students. He's already in there. So hardening the outside is just going to probably keep the good people out. I only know of one active shooter that attacked a school that had body armor, and that was kind of a weird one because his grandfather was a police officer. He killed his grandfather before the attack and brought his grandfather's police guns and police vest. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but statistically far less likely than another active shooter for a school shooter to have a vest. Go ahead. So look at this. Look at this. First, look at the bottom. Look at the quotes. Henry Ford said, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And Mark Twain said there is nothing to be learned in the second kick of the mule. 1989, an elementary school in Stockton, California, Cleveland Elementary. Nutcase went to that school, shot 35 people. And the only reason he didn't shoot more than 35 was he just decided to quit, clocked himself out. Cops weren't on him yet. He could have ran that thing up in the 40s or 50s. 35. What was their plan if an active shooter showed up? It was to call 911 and wait on somebody else to come fix the problem. You would think logically other school leaders would go, wow, that plan failed miserably. I don't want those numbers if he comes here, so we're going to have a different plan. But everybody kept that plan. So we had 10 years to do something different, but we didn't. So then 1999, Littleton, Colorado, which is Columbine, 2 students went to that school and shot 34, almost the same number, and it should have been in the hundreds. But they were lackadaisical, they were very slow, non-aggressive, and they, again, just decided after 34, they decided to commit suicide. Cops didn't get to their bodies for over 2 hours. So that could have been much worse. What was Columbine's plan? Well, have a school resource officer, have a cop somewhere on this huge campus and call 911 if an active shooter comes and wait on somebody else to come fix this problem. Then we had Sandy Hook in 2012. What was their plan? Their plan was the Columbine plan and the Stockton plan. So the guy came there and shot 28. And then we had Parkland in 2018. What was their plan? Well, it was the same plan Columbine. Have an SRO, a cop, somewhere on this big campus. And if an active shooter starts, somebody get to a phone and call 911 and wait on that process for somebody to come stop him. And they got 34, the same as Columbine. And then just 3 months after Parkland, we had Sandy Hook. They had 2 cops, 2 uniformed cops on campus. But their plan was to call 911 because the shooter very rarely starts his attack right in front of the cop that's on campus. And then we just had Uvalde, which is Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas. What was Robb Elementary in 2002? What was their plan given this history? Well, if an active shooter shows up, call 911 and wait on somebody else to come fix this thing. So we won't have the second kick of the mule. We're on like the 50th kick of the mule, and we keep walking behind the mule. We're not learning the lessons.